Hey guys, Muffler mechanic here. Today I'm going to be porting the Echo 2511T. I'm waiting on some chain for it, some quarter pitch chain that I don't have yet, and I really wanted to do a comparison video. I'll show you guys some cuts before and after the port, but I just can't wait anymore, so I'm going to get into it today. So what I'm going to do, I'll show you the saw. I ended up picking a bar up for it. Now this is a specialized bar. It was quite expensive. It's the 43 gauge quarter pitch. I also received my 8-tooth quarter pitch sprocket for this. So here's the old one, and then I'll show you the new one when I get inside, which has 8 teeth, which will give you some faster chain speed. And then the 43 gauge should give me the finer cut. It's a nice looking bar. The reason I ended up getting this one is because it was actually one they had sitting at the floor at my local store, and I just figured, well, if I can get it running, if it doesn't work or I find it doesn't work good, I'll switch to something else. But it sure does feel good in the hand. Like, it's nice and balanced with this bar. It's a really light bar, obviously, so it's going to be a good saw. So anyways, guys, what I'll do now is I'll just take everything apart, and then I'll go through the important steps with you guys. Hey guys, just another quick tip here. I don't know if I went over this in my last video, but there's an arrow on top of these pistons, and that arrow always points to the exhaust side, so that way if you get mixed up when you take it off on any saw, there should be an arrow there that shows you that, and the arrow goes towards the exhaust. Good deal. So since then, all I've done is put a muffler mod in it. Okay, so basically I just drilled a hole, and you got to be real careful because this metal will contort really easily. So when you stick the drill bit in, start with a smaller bit and then use a Dremel. That's what I use, a carbide bit with a Dremel to clean up those edges. And you also want to make sure that it's obviously not going to melt the plastic cover, so just kind of have a look there, but that's how it goes. Okay guys, so here's the flywheel. Here's the ignition coil right there. You can see it, that blue thing. I believe blue is a limited coil, so it does have a limited ignition coil. I'm not 100% sure what that means in relation to the flywheel, but advancing the timing is still going to advance the timing. So all I'm going to do is pop this off, pull it out, and just file a little bit away so that the wheel turns this way, advancing the timing. So it's going to fire a little bit earlier. Okay, so we'll go ahead and pop this off right now. Impact's the best way to get this off, and the clutch and things like that. Okay, so this is tapered here, guys, so if you've ever had trouble with these, I'll show you how to get these off. You don't need a special tool, you just need a punch. So I'm going to grab a center punch, and then I'll just give it a tap with a hammer here. Okay, so it looks like this. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly like this, anything will work, it's just the one I prefer to use. Okay, so I set this sideways. You got to be careful setting this saw down and doing it. I mean, you can do it that way, it's just you don't want to break something. So I generally set it like this. And then you're just going to put the center punch right in the center. There's a little hole there. And you just give her a few taps just like that. Now the first time you do it, it may be stiffer than that the first time that you do it. So what you want to do is just take it slow. Don't get impatient about it. Just keep giving it a few stern taps, and it'll break loose eventually. So here you can see the keyway. So this is where the key that rides on the crank here. Let's see if you guys can see that. You can see that part sticking out of the crank there. That's just the keyway that slides into here. So in order to advance that timing, it's going to have to turn this way. So I'm going to be taking off this side of the keyway. So that'll advance the timing. So if you're looking at the keyway, it's the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm just probably going to use a file for this particular situation because it removes quite a bit of material quickly, and you don't want to remove too much. Guys will say 20 thousandths, but if you really know what you're doing, it depends on what else you've done, and I'm not an expert, so I'm just going to remove less material and do some testing myself. Okay guys, so I've ground the keyway on the left side here. I filed it by hand. You can see it's a bit wider now, not too much, but I'll go ahead and put it on the saw and I'll show you what actually advancing the ignition timing is. Okay, so this would have been how it was in its regular position. Now it'll be turned this way that much, just a few degrees, very little. And that's what you want to start with. You don't want to file a big hole and then it's way too much and then you start running into other problems. It's just a little bit, a very little bit. So I'll put it together now and we'll see what it did. Oh, another note, you want to blow all this stuff out. You don't want any metal filings getting into the crank bearings or nothing like that. So blow everything out, make sure it's nice and clean. And then also, when you're putting this nut on, hand tighten it with it in the advanced position. I did go ahead and try to get inside this cylinder and poured it out. It was very difficult to do. So what I ended up doing was I opened up the exhaust side of things. There was a ridge. It's probably pretty tough to see, but right along this wall, there's a ridge. So I actually filed that down, then I was able to sand everything down with the Dremel, get her nice and smooth. So I opened this up a little bit. On the intake side, all I did was use the sanding bit of the Dremel and sand. There was an edge here down. I didn't want to do too much here because the walls are thin. So I'm excited about the exhaust side here. It's nice and open now. So what I've got to do next is these 2511Ts have this piece here, which is some kind of a heat thing. The gasket already got stuck to there, but it's not a big deal. It's like a 3-piece gasket, so I'll just scrape this one off and use the other two. So now what I have to do is match this up to this hole. Okay, now it might be tough for you to see, but obviously since I ground out inside there, this needs to be cleaned up as well. So what I'll do is I'll grind this down, and it's kind of nice because then I can use it for a template on this. And I only ground in the areas, obviously where the bolts come in, it's pretty thin on the cylinder. So I'll do the same type of grind that I do on this, using this as a template so everything runs really smoothly. I think it's going to work good. Definitely give me some more flow. If you're ever in here, you just got to work slow. That's all I can say. Like, I'm not highly experienced or anything, but you definitely don't want to take too much material. So what I did was just went ahead with the carbide bits again. Just worked really slowly, watched what I was doing, you know, and it looks thick here, but if you look to the inside of the fins, it gets thinner. There's a ridge, so if you get an air leak, you're done. You got to buy a new cylinder. So I just took it nice and slow. It's just something I really want to learn, so I figured I got the time now, I may as well do it. Hey guys, so a quick little update before I go here. I finished grinding this out, which was actually fairly easily. Just put her in the vise, carbide bit, kept honing her out. So this is what I used for my template. Okay, this piece that goes on, it's going to be tough for me to get this straight. But yeah, you can see there nothing's impeding the airflow, at least when I get it lined right up. Anyways, you get the point. You just don't want any overhang on this plate to stop airflow. There, that's perfect. There, I got her perfect there. That's where the bolts go. So you see it's just a straight shot. And then basically what I did with this, I did the best I could. My gasket's stuck on there. I didn't want to peel it off because you know how those things are. They just get wrecked. So I just ground with it there. And here I just did the best I could. There's a tiny bit of stuff impeding the airflow, but not really that bad, not enough to matter. That brown part, that prominent part that you can see, that's where a bolt goes, so I didn't want to get too close to that, so that's just how she is. And then on top of that, I opened up the exhaust quite a bit more, give it some more flow to match up with the newly flowed thing here. So it should be pretty good. Okay guys, so I got everything finished. I'm quite pleased with the results. I haven't cut anything, but I can just tell by firing it up. So there's my new exhaust. Made it a little bit wider. And like I showed you guys earlier, I ported out the exhaust on the cylinder for more airflow. Took that ridge out of the inside of the cylinder there, and then on the intake side I took some of that ridge away, but there wasn't much room to work, so I just worked within the parameters I had and my skill level. So basically this thing's got the full deal now. It's got the timing advance, muffler mod, minor port job, so I mean it's going to be good to go here. But anyways, oh, and the gasket delete, don't forget that. That's a big one. What I was actually considering, one other thing I pointed out too, or forgot to point out, sorry, and I've been doing it a lot because I'm so used to not doing it. On this Echo, especially with this pull rope, when you shut it off, you're going to want to hit stop with it out like this, because this thing does tend to jerk it in a little more than the steel chainsaws and things like that. So I just thought I'd mention that to you guys. Probably a good idea if you want to make the innards and stuff last longer here. I'm probably going to put an elasto start on this though, because it is convenient, right? It absorbs some of that shock, as well as giving it a bit softer start. It absorbs some of that shock, and I mean, it's not a big deal. It's basically just a spring in the handle. So anyways, no, I'm pretty impressed. I don't want to run it too much, guys, because I really want that gasket stuff to set up properly. But what I will do is I'll fire it up one more time and just rev it up a little bit. Now keep in mind, if it smokes, it's because I oiled the shit out of everything, the cylinder, the piston, so it's going to smoke for a bit. I'm just going to have to test it as I go. I'm going to run it rich on the high end, because I don't want to burn it out. I want it to get used to the situation it's in. So anyways, I'll fire it up here. But anyways, I'll have to run her and test her, and then when that quarter pitch chain comes, boom, we'll start cutting with that and see what we can get. So thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And you guys can also follow me on Instagram. Just look up Poplar Mechanic. I might throw a little thing down there, might not. Depends what kind of mood I'm in. Alright guys, have a good night.